Hello everybody, AJ Resize here, and today we are taking a look at the Gnome-Shell edition of Solus. Yes, I have been using Solus for quite a while, big fan of that distribution, and I have been running Gnome-Shell on it for a while as well, but now there is an official ISO that you can download that has GNOME Shell already installed for you. It's kind of optimized, whereas before it was optimized for Budgie, and you could go and add GNOME Shell, and you had to do a little play around to get some of the things to work right. But now with this new ISO, it's ready to go right out of the box. And I've got to say, it is quite possibly the best GNOME Shell experience that I have had. I'm not going to say that it is the most pure GNOME Shell because it is not, but I think it is one of the best implementations of GNOME Shell that I've seen. They picked some excellent extensions to kind of configure it for. Um, I guess you could say for somebody that is new to GNOME Shell or the way that a lot of people use GNOME Shell. So anyway, you see over here, I've got Firefox open, and on the Solus download page, you can see that now there is an ISO for Budgie, which is their default desktop environment, and for the GNOME desktop, and then also the Mate desktop. So you got three to pick from there. And also there is an option if you once you install one of these three, if you go into their software center, there are a couple of window managers available. So if you want to go the window manager route, um, that's definitely an option for you there. So if you are looking for a complete GNOME Shell experience, at least from the standpoint of applications, the developers at Solus pretty much have you covered because I went through the list of all the official GNOME applications, and everything is either installed or is available through the software center, through the Solus Software Center, with the exception of GNOME Software. And since Solus has their own software center, really no need to port that one over or make that available. And the other one I saw that was missing is the new GNOME recipes. Um, I played around with that one a little bit when I was on my test of Ubuntu GNOME 1704. Seems like a pretty neat application. Um, it was not in the software repositories, and checking through the forums and whatnot, it looks like that one's kind of in the process of making its way to Solus, but it is not there yet. I'm sure that there's probably bigger fish to fry than that one application, and it's probably uh, I was playing around with it a little bit more out of curiosity than anything else. I don't know that there's going to be a ton of people using that application, so I can see why it wouldn't necessarily be a high priority. But anyway, so you can pretty much get a complete GNOME experience application wise by going with GNOME Shell on Solus. And then I've got the tweak tool open here just so I can show you. They're running the Arc theme, and you can see I'm running for the GTK theme. I am running the Arc Darker, Arc icons. I am using the Breeze cursor theme, and then of course the Arc Shell theme. Now the one thing that I did add as far as theming goes is there are available, and let me switch over to Firefox here. There are available, there's an Arc Firefox theme which I installed. There is also a Arc Thunderbird theme which I installed as well. Let me pull open Thunderbird here. So you can see there's there's the kind of the theming that you get with Thunderbird under the Arc theme. So I installed those, and also there is also a an Arc theme for Chrome. And actually, if you go to if you come over here to the if you go to the Arc theme homepage on GitHub and scroll on down, it tells you, go all the way down here, down where it says extras, it tells you how to install the Chrome theme. Also works for Chromium. And then also there is an Arc KDE theme, which I've got up here on GitHub. I installed that so that when I run Kdenlive, it pretty much matches the theming elsewhere. Let me pull that up. So now the one thing you will notice that I am using that the Arc theme, but it's not 100% match to to the GTK theme. And if you come in here to settings and go to theme, you can see I'm running the Arc theme. If you go down to style, though, you can see that I am running the Breeze theme still, as opposed to the GTK theme. I did find that if I went and switched over to the GTK theme, that a lot of my menus were all screwed up and I couldn't. Here I'll just kind of demonstrate. Let me go GTK. So that's what you get, and then let's click open, and you can see, yeah, your menus are all screwed up and whatnot. So, and to be perfectly honest, I think that the sticking with the Breeze theme kind of looks better anyway. But this way, it gets you kind of a match to the Arc theming of the rest of the GTK applications. So moving on from there, I'll show you the extensions that they've added for you. Not a huge number, but I think they're kind of practical for a lot of people. I wouldn't necessarily use all of them myself, but I think they're some of the more popular ones. It makes, I guess you say, makes Gnome-Shell easier to use for a lot of people. They got the Alt Tab extension installed and running by default. So let me just go, and so with that, if you go and click Alt and then Tab, you can scroll through your running windows. Where you can go and switch between applications without taking your finger off of the or your hands off of the keyboard. Dash to dock, which is the dock that you see over here. When I first learned about dash to dock, I used it extensively. Not really much anymore, just because after having really learned a good workflow with Gnome-Shell, I don't use a dock. I keyboard search everything, or basically using my mouse slows me down. Whether I'm pulling up the application, searching for something, whatever. So, I really don't use it anymore. Although it is nice in that if you go in here um, to the settings, you can go and resize the dock, which is something that I like, just because if you go and you hit hit your Windows key, so you can go to your overview. The By default, I think that the dock that shows up by default is pretty large, and I like the slim down look that you get with dash to dock when you can tweak it a little bit. So anyway, we got that going on. Impatience speeds up your animations, which I like it fast. Top icons plus is running by default. That's a good one. It moves all of your legacy icons up to the top panel, and I think most people like it that way. And then also the user themes is set up by default so they can run the Arc Shell theme. And they got some other extensions that are installed by default but not activated. And you can go through and activate those if you like, and add other extensions if you want. So you got the screenshot window size, a removable drive menu, places indicator, native window placement, launch new instance. If you want a traditional menu, they got an application menu installed by default, auto move windows, a whole bunch of different extensions that are installed by default. and you can just go and activate them if you like. And actually, towards the end of the video, I will go and I'm going to install. I held off on installing any extensions myself, but I'm going to install the stuff that I normally use, and then I'll show you what I use, um, just so you can see, what works for me. Resource wise, Gnome-Shell is not nearly as efficient as either the Mate desktop or the Budgie desktop. I've got the system monitor running right here. You can see that right now I am using 2.3 gigabytes of my 16 gigs of RAM, a fair amount of CPU usage going on. Now, having said all that, do remember that I am running um, a screen recorder, a webcam recorder. I got Firefox running. I got there's several applications running. All of them are using a fair amount of resources. Baseline for Gnome-Shell. It looked like I was running in the neighborhood of 1 to 1.1, 1.2 gigabytes of RAM that I was using up. And, for a system that is running, has 16 gigs of RAM, no big deal. However, if you have an older computer, a netbook, a laptop that has 2 gigs of RAM, 3 gigs of RAM, 4 gigs of RAM, something like that, this can be fairly intensive. And if you've got I would I put it, a light duty CPU, same deal here. I've got an 8 core processor, and you can see I've got a fair amount of processing going on. Granted, a lot of that has to do with the applications I'm running at this time, but you can see that it is not light on the resources. So just something to keep in mind if you are not, if you've never run Gnome-Shell in the past. If you've got a fairly recent computer, probably not going to be any big deal. But if you've got an older computer or like I said, a netbook, that sort of thing, you may want to consider going with a lighter weight desktop environment. Now, having said all that, I will tell you that right out of the box, everything on this distribution has worked flawlessly. No issues, no problems, no crashes. Everything has worked exactly the way that it should. So, definitely two thumbs up to the Solus development team on making sure that happened, because there has been a fair number of times when I have gone and tested a Gnome-Shell distribution and got errors, got crashes, all that kind of stuff. Ubuntu Gnome was one that I really didn't have too many issues, but I know a lot of people that had issues with Plymouth crashing and other applications just not working. In this case here, everything, whether it was the actual Gnome-Shell itself or the various applications, everything has worked right out of the box. So definitely two thumbs up to the development team for getting that right. So let's take a look at the extensions that I add so that I can personalize Gnome-Shell to my workflow. A lot of this has to do with doing the YouTube videos and the screen recording, all that kind of stuff. So, it's kind of, I guess you say, personalized for me. Some of these extensions, yeah, you probably could care less about doing what I'm doing here. For others, you may find some of this useful. So let me show you a few of the things here. Um, First one is caffeine, and that's a little coffee cup that you see up at the top. It prevents your screensaver from kicking in. So if you click on that, it's enabled. Your screensaver will not kick in. That is useful for when I'm recording a video, and if I'm not moving the mouse around very much, I don't want the screensaver to kick in while I am recording. So there's that one right there. Clipboard indicator is useful if you do a lot of copying pasting and you may need to go back to something you copied maybe 4 or 5 instances ago. So if you go and you click on here, and I copied a few things just so you can see what it does here. So let's say I needed to go back to what I had copied back here. You go and click on that, and once again, it has been moved into the recent memory, so you can copy it, or so you can paste that again. If you come down here to settings, you can see you got a fair number of settings. You know how long your history size is, preview size, you know, all kinds of stuff there. So pretty useful extension. Sound input and output device chooser, very useful if you've got, you know, let's say that you know, you've got a well, like in my case, you know, I'm wearing the headset. I also have a webcam that can record both video and audio, so I can go over here and I can choose for the input, you know, which mic do I want to use, and same thing with recording video. If you've got, you know, webcam, and or maybe a couple of webcams, or you're using, you know, you've got maybe a laptop with a built-in webcam but it's not too good, so you go and you use sometimes an external webcam that is you know, higher quality or whatever. You can go and switch between them from that. Very nice extension as well. What I got left? Oh, and then the screenshot tool. This is more of a speed thing than anything else, you know, because normally I would go and I would hit the Windows key and type in screenshot and pull it up that way. And then this just puts the screenshot tool right there at the top of the screen. So I click on that, click select area, and boom, I can do my screenshots. So there. And as you see, I don't use a ton of extensions. Um, you know, the dash to dock, that one's already installed. I'll use that one, and I usually use Impatience because I like the animations to be really quick. But I try not to use too many. Oh, one other one that I don't have installed right now. Typically, I use the drop-down terminal extension. And the reason I have not installed it is because I have been playing around with different drop-down terminals to decide which I like the best. You know, there's the one that is the Gnome-Shell extension. There is Gwake. There is Tilde. There's probably others that I'm not mentioning, but those are just the ones off the top of my head. So I'm kind of playing around with different drop downs to see which one I like the best. So and the jury is still out on that. So I don't have an answer for you on what I think is the best on that one. But anyway, that's the GNOME extensions that I use. All in all, I think this is quite possibly the best implementation of GNOME Shell that I have seen out there. It is definitely not pure GNOME Shell. You know, there's definitely, you can definitely see the Solus influence here. So if you're looking for something that is pure bone stock GNOME Shell, this isn't the place to get it. But I think that it is a very good implementation of GNOME Shell. Probably the best that is available out there. Um, really like everything that they've got going on. You know, the theming is good. The applications that they've chosen, really nice. They've got all the bases covered for most users, and pretty much anything else that you may need. Unless you got a really specific application that you need, you'll probably find it in the software repositories. And once again, everything has worked great right out of the box. So very happy with this distribution. This is what I'm going to be using on my main desktop for the foreseeable future. And at least right now, I really don't see any reason to change from it. And I think that about finishes this review up. I know it's not been a real extensive review, but I've reviewed Solace several times recently, so no real need to go into super depth here. Just kind of what's new and and that sort of thing. Coming up, and part of what's made me do this is many people know that Ubuntu will be moving to GNOME Shell with their next release. So I'm going to be doing a couple of videos, definitely at least one video on how to use GNOME Shell effectively. There's, you know, a lot of the stuff that I've been reading online, people talking about how inefficient GNOME Shell is as far as workflow goes. And once I read what they have to say, I can see it's not that GNOME Shell is inefficient, it's that you are using Gnome-Shell inefficiently. And this is not a knock on that person. It, probably they don't really know how to use it efficiently. So I'm going to be doing some videos on how to efficiently use Gnome-Shell, because if you try, Gnome-Shell is not a traditional desktop. If you try to use it as a traditional desktop, they are 100% right. You will not be efficient in your workflow. You need to change your work habits to match what Gnome-Shell is designed for. So anyway, be on the lookout for that video. And as always, comments, questions, all that kind of stuff, leave it down below. I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, and please share this video with all your friends, relatives, anybody that is interested in anything Linux. The more subscribers, the better. And as always, thanks a lot, and see you on the next video.